Good evening. It's Saturday, almost 9 p.m. So let's have a little wine and let's have a little girl on girl chat, lady to lady chat. And this is for those of you who keep getting screwed over by guys. Now, before I make this start talking about this topic, I want to say that I like men. I know that most men are generally good. I have a loving relationship with my father, my brother, my sons, my grandson, my uncles, and I appreciate my clients. So the men, my ex-husband, super sweet to me. We're going to have Thanksgiving together. Um, so I genuinely like men. However, I have had also men that were like total losers. Same goes for women. Um, Although I haven't met that many women who are losers, but that's because, I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of making this video about men. So, this is just as a preface to this video, my experience with men was mostly positive until I got divorced. And that's when I came across this whole new landscape of men who lied to me, led me on, um, charmed me with their words, but used me for sex and left me heartbroken. And I was not used to that. My dad loved me. My dad never lied to me. My ex-husband never lied to me. None of my boyfriends lied to me, except one cheated on me once, but that was okay. My sons are super respectful. Like, I just wasn't used to this world of men, and women do this too. It could be just the new era, who lie and who deceive and who are inauthentic. This was a whole new experience for me. And I had my heart broken many, many times. If you scroll back through my videos, I made a video a couple months back where it was this first guy that I liked in years, and I had my heart super broken because he was another guy who was inauthentic. I'm just going to say it that way. And I'm also a member of some Facebook groups of divorced women dating again, and I hear their stories and I read their stories. And, here's what really is apparent from all of this. Like, we have such a desire to love people and to be loved. Like, we just want to love people and we want to give to people, and we take people at their word and we're trusting, which is really, like, I feel like it's our feminine nature, to want to love and to want to trust and to have people that we can love. And yet, time after time, we get disappointed, we get our hearts broken. And men watching this too, you get your hearts broken by women. You fall for women and they disappoint you. They cheat on you. They lead you on. They use you for your money. Um, they're bitchy. I don't know what all the problems are with women because I'm not following that. But I'm guessing those are the main problems. And with men, they lie, they're married, and they're cheating. There's other women. I tend to get, my problem has been men that are, since my divorce, men who are using me for sex or who are emotionally unavailable. If they're under the age of 30, they use me for sex, they're immature, so I'm done with those guys. And if they're in their 30s, often they don't know what they want. They're not really authentic because they don't really know themselves, but they give me all these sweet words like, oh, I really like you. I really want to spend more time with you. And then I believe them, and then it's just like nothing. Okay, so what is the problem? And I was thinking about this yesterday, and I thought, it's my feminine nature to want to love people. And unless I'm guarded or closed off, that's what I naturally want to do, especially if it's someone that I like. Let's put it that way. But it doesn't always go well. And why is that? What is it about the world that has us wanting to love people who are inauthentic? Are we supposed to not love people? I think, and this is what I realized today, is that the problem really is that we are loving people at the expense of abandoning ourselves. The problem is loving people at the expense of ourselves. That many of us are abandoning ourselves in wanting to love another person. So we are more invested in loving this other person than we are in loving ourselves. And that's where all the pain comes in. The majority of the pain in relationships comes when we abandon ourselves. And early on in dating, when we pick the wrong guys, it's because we overlooked our feelings. We didn't take a stand for ourselves. We didn't trust ourselves. We didn't ask the right questions. We overlooked things. We were trying to be accommodating. And what we think is love, overlooking things, being accommodating, being really giving, is really leaving ourselves. So I think we have to be really careful to distinguish between loving ourselves and grasping for another person, loving ourselves and needing another person, loving ourselves versus abandoning ourselves to have this other person. And when we abandon ourselves, I'm going to use we, but I should use I statements. When I abandon myself to make sure that I get to see you or be with you, nothing good ever comes of it. Nothing good ever comes of it. That's where all the problems come in. Overlooking my own red flags, not thinking that I deserve to ask for more, not knowing I could ask for more. And I want to say that people are not really to blame for this, because I think very few people really had positive role models of what a relationship should look like, or how a man should treat a woman, or a woman should treat a man ideally. Did we see this from our parents? I mean, the movies are just make-believe. Didn't really learn that in school. It's not really a class that we're taught. And so I think we're all kind of just winging it. And many of us were taught that loving ourselves is selfish and bad. But I'm going to tell you this. Until we love ourselves more than we love anyone else, until we give ourselves love more than we give anyone else, all of our relationships are going to be filled with pain. It's imperative that I love myself more than I love you, because all I can really give you is the overflow of the love that I have for myself. That's all I can really give you. And if I'm loving you without having that, then I'm really grasping and I'm needy and I'm clinging and I'm going to be in pain, because there is no human being that can meet my needs, all of my needs, all the time. You know, I mean, even if you're in a relationship with someone, there are things about that person that are not ideal. If you're in a relationship with someone, have a discussion. What are the things that you want in a partner that I don't have? And there will be a list. So no person can ever meet all of our needs. We have to meet our own needs emotionally. And the problem is not knowing how to do it. And because if I don't know how to meet my emotional needs, I'm going to look to you to meet them. And I'm going to give you love in an effort for you to give me this back. And that's a form of control, and it doesn't really work. And I'm going to be making a hell of a lot more videos about this, because I've spent, the last 7 years of my life trying to figure out this thing of how to be happy with myself. And I've done a lot of different self-love practices, read a lot of books about it, listened to a lot of Eckhart Tolle, and I like Eckhart Tolle, but he doesn't really capture how we're supposed to love ourselves as we go through life. And so finally, what I came across was, I removed the book. It's the Inner Bonding Workbook by Dr. Margaret Paul. And what it really helped me see was that I have to, instead of being closed off to my feelings because I'm judging them or they seem too painful to feel, I have to take responsibility for them. Because when I judge them or don't want to feel them, I am taking a cop out. I'm hiding from them. I'm running away. So I have to take responsibility for them and feel them and just be curious about them. And the second part of it is, so it's inner child healing work. So that's what they call the inner child or the feelings. And then the second part, cheers. So yummy. Is the adult, the loving adult that comforts the child. So we have to have a loving adult that comforts the child. And if you can think of a loving parent who comforted you, like say that I'm feeling angry and that's my inner child feeling angry, and I need the loving adult part of me to comfort this child, but I don't know how to do it. And when I coach people and I take them through an inner child healing, they don't often know how to comfort themselves. So I have them think about how they would comfort another person, another child, because I do this inner child healing from like a childhood experience they had. And that has helped. But what I've learned in this book is that if we don't know how to comfort ourselves, we have to turn to a spiritual power. Okay, it can be God, it can be Jesus, it can be divine energy. So when I read about that this morning, I was like, oh God, because I'm like, I feel abandoned by my spiritual power. I feel abandoned. I've wanted a relationship since my divorce. I don't have one. I feel like God abandoned me. So I don't feel like this being that loves me, that wants the best for me. How am I going to be able to do this workbook? What is my definition of this inner power? And I finally came up with the concept of some universal energy and imagining like this little being at my side. And I started playing with that this morning early as I was driving to my boot camp down by the beach. And I started like really feeling it, and I just felt all this love coming from it. And really the point of having this spiritual source is that we need a source of love. That source of love, from some spiritual thing, some spiritual source of love. God, Jesus, Allah, Krishna, universal light, energy, a bright light, a heart. It can even be your own higher self. Something that gives you love, something that gives you comfort. And I'm just so willing to do it. I started feeling it, and I started feeling all this love, and I started feeling happy, and I started feeling protected. And I started feeling like I have something I can hold on to that gives me love, and that makes me not want to look for it in a man. So see, that's the whole point. So is that to honor our feelings and to realize that love comes from the universal divine energy, however you want to define it. It can be a doorknob, like they say in AA, it doesn't matter. Just to open to something outside of yourself as the source of love, instead of looking for it from another person or from ourselves. You know, a lot of people say, I meditate on myself. Well, you're just recycling your own negative thoughts, okay? So these are the two parts. This divine source that is the source of love, that's going to be the adult part of me. And then the inner child that needs healing, that has all these emotions. What are all these emotions? They've been repressed. Anyway, so I think the reason that people have problems in relationships is because they're not tuned in to a divine source of love. And so they're looking for love from another person, or they're trying to give love that they don't really have to this other person, because love, I can only give love to you as the overflow of the love that I have for myself. And if I don't love myself and I try to love you, I'm more like, it's not love, it's a grasping and it's a neediness. Okay, so, and this video is inspired by a post on Twitter, a tweet on Twitter that one of my colleagues made, where she was talking about neediness, and that when people say, oh, I don't need anyone, I don't need anyone, it comes from, it's a traumatic, it comes out of trauma from an abusive childhood where someone learned that they couldn't trust their caregivers, and they decided they were never going to let themselves need anyone. They were never going to let themselves need anyone. And I went through that period for a time because I was kind of like a very independent child. And I was very loved by my parents. I was the only child. They really wanted me. I was super loved. But they also were a little bit emotionally unavailable. And whenever that happened, I very quickly decided to just hate them. I'd be like, I don't need these people. I don't need them. I can't wait till I'm adult. I am so out of here. I was like 6 years old saying, I can't wait till I'm an adult. I am so out of here. And I was actually my dad's favorite child. I don't know about my mom, but my mom always sewed dresses for us, and she was just super sweet. I only remember her yelling at me once in my whole life. She was always just trying to be so sweet and give us the childhood that she never had, like the loving childhood. My mom was raised by parents who had money but not enough love, and my dad was raised by parents who had money but not enough love. And I think that they really just wanted to give us the love they never had. And my dad liked having girls. He's Iranian, and he liked having girls. He wanted 7 daughters. And so he wasn't upset that I was a daughter and not a son. I felt really loved. And maybe I was a little bit entitled because when they did things I didn't like, I would just be mad at them, which is different from what I read about people trying to get their parents' approval. Nonetheless, I would just get mad at them, and I would be like, I don't need people. And whenever they didn't let me do whatever the fuck I wanted, because they were good parents, I would just be mad at them. What do you mean I can't be out till 1 a.m. with some guys? What do you mean I can't smoke pot? Who needs you? I want to be an adult. I wish you would just die. And I would just wish my parents would die because I didn't want all these rules placed upon me. And so I'm like, I don't need people. Well, I also was taught that spiritual people should need people. My mother became a teacher of transcendental meditation. Thank you, Maharishi. When I was, I guess, 12 years old. And she taught me transcendental meditation, and I went to the first half of the 6-month TM teacher training course when I was 14, and they were all adults in there. I was the only kid in there, so I was very serious about my meditation practice. Anyway, this thing of I don't need anyone went on for a really long time. I was married, and I was in this 22nd year of my marriage when I was making a lot of changes in myself, and I had just come off taking Vicodin for 10 years, and I should make some videos about my Vicodin addiction on this channel. I was going to meetings, I was working the steps, and I was going through this thing of anger, and I was Googling a lot of stuff because I didn't find it in the books or the literature in 12-step programs. But underneath anger is fear. So I made a list of everything I was angry at or had ever been angry at, and the underlying fear, and that was extremely cleansing. And I read it all to my sponsor, a wonderful woman. But nonetheless, let me get back to the point. I remember as I was opening up more, and I was going to a lot of women's meetings at the time. I was super happy with my life. My marriage was like the best it had ever been. My husband like really fell in love with me. I fell in love with him. I was so sweet. He wanted to be around me all the time. And I remember I remember saying something to him about not wanting to need people. I realize now why I don't like my back tickled. Something about needing people or something like that. And he looked at me and he's like, honey, it's okay to need people. And, you know, this is a man, my ex-husband, I know I divorced him, and that was because of our sex life, but he never put me down. He was always encouraging. He was always nice to me, even though he did have resentments against me. But nonetheless, when he said it's okay to need people, and he smiled at me like that, you know, and he had supported me all these years and been a great father to our children and had been so supportive of me, I'm like, I'm going to let myself need this guy. I am going to let myself need this guy because I trust him. I did trust him. And why not? Just let myself need people. And I didn't realize it until just recently how I abandoned myself to let myself need him, because I didn't need myself first. I just allowed myself to need him. And I started wanting him more sexually. And every time it went wrong, and it went wrong almost every time, you guys, it was bad. It was unsatisfying for me, put it physically and emotionally unsatisfying. I was sad or I was angry almost every time we had sex, which was multiple times a week for the next 3 years. And I was like, okay, well, he's my husband. I want to love him, but I'm so unhappy, and I didn't know how to deal with these feelings. I didn't know how to deal with these feelings, and that's ultimately why I left him. And his life is better now without me, and my life is better now without him, so it's fine. But the struggle that I went through, initially when I was unhappy after a month, I said, I'm going to divorce you. I'm going to leave you. This isn't going well. And he said, I do not want a divorce. So I made that mean. I gave it a meaning that he really wanted to keep trying, and I held on with hope for another 2.5 years that things would change, and they never did. And the reason it took me so long to forgive him, and I only forgave him 2 months ago when I went through this forgiveness process that John Gray lays out in his book, Mars and Venus Starting Over, because I was so angry with him and how he mistreated me sexually and emotionally. But see, I allowed it because I had abandoned myself. I abandoned myself, and I didn't know I had abandoned myself. I didn't know it. I just thought, well, he's my husband, I'm his wife, I want to love him. How can I get him to want to be closer? I don't understand why he doesn't want to be closer. I don't understand why he doesn't want to kiss me, and why sex would be, well, he would just say, sex is just physical, Sharzad. Sex is just physical. I don't have sex that's just physical. I don't have sex that's just physical with any of my escort clients. I'm a prostitute, and I have emotional sex. And the men I have sex with now give me at least 10 times more emotion than my ex-husband ever did, because he was a little bit avoidant. But I allowed it all. I allowed it because I didn't trust myself. I didn't know what to look for. I didn't purposely abandon myself. I wanted to love him. I wanted to have a really good marriage. And you know, the first 22 years of our marriage, we kind of each did our own thing. I was never a needy person. I was never one of those needy women, ever, with him. I let him do his own thing and go off and do stuff with his friends. Not that he hardly ever did. He always came home after work. He never cheated on me, and I never cheated on him. For those of you who are thinking everybody cheats, they don't. But you know, I wasn't a perfect wife. After many years of him ignoring me and neglecting me, I started becoming critical. I started no longer saving our money like I had before. I started spending it more. I started my Vicodin addiction. And again, those were all ways that I abandoned myself and didn't treat him properly. anyway, the point I wanted to make is that being loving to another person is not love if it comes at the expense of abandoning ourselves, not taking care of ourselves and our own needs. So, in summary, what I want to say is that our main responsibility in life is to love ourselves, which is very easy to do. And it doesn't mean that we don't care about other people. It just means that we love ourselves. And when I love myself, I am going to be really great company. I'm going to be a lot more fun, a lot more joyful, more self-expressed, just give you my boundaries. And when you don't do what I want you to do, it's not going to be such a big deal, because I'm going to be very comfortable with your boundaries too and what you want, because I have that source of love in here. So what you do isn't going to make or break me. And if I realize what you do isn't a good fit for me, then we can mutually agree to not be friends anymore. I just want to say that doesn't mean that we are just like, well, fuck you, you don't do what I want. It's all comes from love, okay? And the problem is that we don't love ourselves enough, and that I think as humans, we are conditioned to look for love from outside ourselves, because that's how we're programmed. As children, we get love from our parents, we get approval from the teachers, we get approval from religion, we get approval from the government, we get approval from the laws of our society and from our community. And so we're always looking out here, and unless someone teaches us how to love ourselves, none of us know how to. And I'm going to say unless you're enlightened, you're not loving yourself fully. I'm going to say that. I'm just going to say that. And unless you've done inner child work or learned how to love yourself or done some kind of self-love practice, I don't think that you know how to love yourself. So I'm going to be incorporating this into my coaching business. And let me take you guys over here. I want to show you guys the book that I'm using. I just set it over here because I'm going to be reading it in the morning. I read every morning for at least I like to read for an hour every morning. So I usually get up at 5:30, so I have an hour to read before I go for my training. This is the Inner Bonding Workbook by Dr. Margaret Paul. I know it's backwards. I'm not going to edit my videos, okay? I'm not a video editor person. I'm just going to be real in the moment. And so that's what I've been using, and that's what I think is really good. You do not need to read the book that goes with it. You can just get the workbook, or you can hire me as a coach. When I have a lot of this stuff finished, that I want to have like my modules finished, I'm going to be advertising more to have people work with me. But I also like to make videos real time, just telling you guys what I'm up to. And so I'm working on some dating checklists right now, and I'm going to be talking about those when I have those done. So, because I do want to do a lot more coaching with people. I love my escort business. And I also like variety in my life. I have my porn page. I make probably $5,000 or $6,000 a month on my porn page. And then I have my escort business and I have my coaching business. And I want to have more clients in my coaching business so that I have like a really nice variety in my income. And I love personal development. I love learning about our human condition and how to be happy, and how to be happy in this world that keeps dishing out pain, how to be happy in our jobs and in our relationships, and whether we're single or alone. Like, what is the hack to happiness? And every time I think I discovered it, it turns out I haven't. But I think I finally discovered it this time with that inner child healing work, where I'm opening to my feelings, even if they're painful. And I'm also finding love in a spiritual source that is, by my definition, whatever I define it as, so that I can feel loved. And they say that we're not supposed to anyway, I'm getting up to 30 minutes. I have to end this video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful Saturday evening.